Hello again. I'm finally back after a long break. There was a lot that has been happening in my life. For example, I was required to take some medicine, but the medicine backfired really badly. I ended up in the hospital at one point, and I had to get on a whole bunch of other different medications. They were making me really tired and unconcentrated, so I wasn't really playing at my best, but I'm finally coming off the medication and I'm ready to take another stab at this top 100 challenge. And I did my best to push through it, but then feeling very tired and unconcentrated with all the medicine makes it a little bit harder. But I'm back, and I still didn't. I stumbled a little bit. It says I'm ranked 346, but I still have a good shot of finally reaching the top 100 once I try this again. Um, but I'm glad I'm finally out of the hospital, and I'm ready to show you just one quick game I played. It's with an anti-Grunfeld system that I started playing recently. It's after G6. It's called the Alekhine variation with F3. The point is that black can never exchange the knights if he wants to go in for a line like this. There is no knight takes c3, so he has to play knight b6. And I like maintaining a piece when I have this big center. I have more space, so let's give black another piece on the board. So f3 is an interesting idea I started playing recently, but in this game it was right here. Black played bishop g7, e4, and then it transposes to the same as King's Indian through an anti-Grunfeld system. And I really like this system for white because it sets up a kingside attack with g4, h4, h5, and then if I trade the dark squared bishops, then I have an attack similar to the Sicilian dragon variation. So really quickly, that would be something like bishop e3. Oh yeah, castles, bishop e3. He played e5 in this game. c5 is the main line, and let me see. c5, that fixes this pawn on c4 so that you can prepare a6, b5, try to break open the queen side. But e5, oh yeah, I remember another thing. After c5, if something like knight e2 takes, this transposes to the Sicilian dragon with a Meraxi bind. And this is also very powerful for white. It's just that black gets squeezed with all this extra space. Sometimes I can create a weakness on d6 if I ever provoke the move e6. So yeah, you can also transpose to the Meraxi bind. Knight e2, b6. d5, I clamp down on the c6 square, I'm shutting everything down. And so long as I keep the center closed, then black can never really have an attack against my king. I have good central control, good central space, and I'm still preparing a decent attack with queen d2, h4, and so on. So a6, queen d2, bishop d7, g4. And yeah, this move is to prevent h5, because if I play h4, then black can play h5, and that's going to try to stall my attack. g4, it takes control of the h5 square. I also prepare g5 to kick this knight away from the defensive h7. And that's one of the key squares I need to get to pull off a successful attack. So g4 is preparing h4. b5, knight g3. That's to give defense to the c4 pawn. b4, knight d1. And this knight on d1 is actually well placed, even though it seems very awkward. It doesn't really have any good squares to go to, but a knight standing right next to the king like this, it often boxes out like key checking squares from the black queen, and you'll see this in the future. I see this pattern in a couple of other games that's not one talked about very much, but it's like a knight standing next to the king. It covers a lot of key squares, and it can defend your king from queen checks. You'll see later on why. a5, h4, c6. Black is trying to break open the queen side. And meanwhile, since he pushed back with b4, he's never going to have anything like a4 and b3, and that's because I can always shut it down to something like a3 or b3. So these pawns are never going to break anything open. His only chance is to open the c-file. Here I continued my plan with bishop h6. It's still better for white, but even better would be something like h5. Here's the technical reasons why. So h5 takes. You open up the h-file, And then it says you don't even need to trade the bishops. You can just go with queen h2, and this bishop remains super active, cutting out queen b6. So now that keeps black in a passive position. And then this crazy move I didn't see at all. The point is you just open up the black king even more, you take on h7, and then the attack continues from there. So white gets a very promising attack after sacrificing that knight. Meanwhile, black's pieces are all crowded on the backwards ranks, on the first two ranks. So white is dominating the position there. But bishop h6, although not the best move, it still says white is better. And it's because white does have some real attacking chances still. Even still, it says this is an inaccuracy. It wants me to play bishop e3 again. But the attacking chances are real. And queen b6. And here he goes. He's trying to bring his queen into the game and finally get some checks to my king. But these two pieces alone are cutting out all the squares that his queen can possibly get to. That would check my king. So his queen has a very hard time entering my position. Takes, queen h6 check. King f7, g5, kick the knight away. And it's still, oh yeah, and by the way, if queen d4, trying to get into the king, he still can't get in because I cover that square with my bishop and I cover these squares with my knight still. So these pieces actually cover a lot of territory that still prevent his queen from effectively entering my position. Queen h7 check. Rook h6. Here his only real shot at causing me any trouble would be something like queen g1. But I still have queen g6 check and I'm getting to his king first. So rook g8. And here the rest is pretty much history. I already traded off the queen with I'm up 3 pawns too. In black, it's only a matter of time before he has to resign now. d6, check. I trade off pieces, bishop c4, and finally he resigned. He didn't really have anything else to fight for. Once I got the queens off and I was up 3 pawns, it was only a matter of time before he would be forced to resign. But that's just a quick discussion of why I like the Samish variation of the King's Indian defense. It's one, it helps to avoid the Grunfeld variation with something like f3. So d5, it forces black into a different variation of it. And then after e4, you transpose to the Samish. And then white has a lot of aggressive options with g4 and h4 attacking the black king. And the main line is something, oh yeah, there is one drawback to this, and it's that black can get an improved version of the Benoni. So the black's best is to play something like c5 immediately, and then d5, and then play it like a Benoni. Try to prepare something like a6 and b5, and then it turns into a Benoni game. So that would be what the one drawback of f3, it allows that c5 move. But other than that, I like the attacking chances white gets out of the Samish. And although this was a rapid game, I thought it was a good example of why I like the Samish variation. And I am going to start recording more standard classical timed videos with longer time controls. I'm going to be trying for the top 100 again. I've slowly been getting back into chess, and I think I'm as strong as ever. So see you in the future. Bye for now.